today's session, I asked Ernest to come on and have a conversation and share some strategies around making amends. Now, making amends, one of the hardest things that for many people find to do, because we can really get clean on our conversation of will of consent. We can work on our, what are we willing to do? What do we want? And our freedom cake, as we discussed. But the reality as humans, we're going to fuck up. It is just what it's going to be human. Sometimes just because life's in the way, Ernest and I will often talk about, most of the time we're average. We're our average selves. We're not our highest self with all of our resources in time. And so sometimes that fucking up might be just because we didn't pay attention. Sometimes it might be we don't even realize we're going to, where we might do something and the impact of it was never what we intended, but the impact nonetheless has a negative impact on somebody else. And so knowing how to make amends and getting really clear on what is ours and what's not, and then if it is ours, something to make amends, how do we do it? And I am so excited about this session. So Ernest, thank you for careering off the mountain.
Yes, thank you. This is not a well-oiled operation on my part. I made a mistake with time zones. So everybody knows this is not Anne's fault. This is my fault. I thought Anne was in the UK time because I often translate to UK time instead of South Africa time. So here I am, and I apologize for being late. I will make amends accordingly.
There we go. I think we can pretend that we constructed this to demonstrate making amends. Well, we have got a wonderful group of people here. Many have already watched a lot of the previous trainings and diving on in. So, Ernest, thank you so much. Let's talk about when we mess up, and why is it such an issue for so many people, the wound of being wrong.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's really kryptonite, right? It's that one thing that knocks Superman or Superwoman out of the sky is the feeling like we've done something wrong and therefore we are going to be rejected or abandoned because of it, right? That's terrifying. It's existentially terrifying. In fact, you could probably say that all of our trauma, all of our personality programming, everything that ever gets in the way of anything is because we're deeply terrified of being either rejected or abandoned. Yeah. And so being wrong in a relationship or making a mistake in a relationship for all of us as children wasn't a safe thing to do, right? I have met no human being who feels like, oh yeah, I had a childhood that told me it was totally okay to make mistakes. No, right? We were punished. We were we got a failing grade on a test in school. We, put our hand up and got the wrong answer and got made fun of. We were belittled, bullied, sometimes just emotionally, but sometimes physically, right? We actually felt physical pain when we made a mistake. So we actually live in deep fear of making a relationship mistake. And yet, guess what? We're going to do that every single day we're in a relationship. Right, as I've just done today, right, and I've made a mistake that doesn't reflect, of course, my intentions. It doesn't reflect how much I value, you all or Anne, but I've made a mistake, right, and so inadvertently we are going to make mistakes left, right, and center for the rest of our lives. So the question is, how, having made mistakes, do we actually go about restoring trust? And that's an art. And it turns out that our culture, because we're so terrified of even admitting mistakes, also has a very, very poor narrative around how to repair mistakes, right? How to actually rebuild trust, because we're so ashamed of having made them in the first place that often the default story about how we repair mistakes is kind of like, well, let's speak about this as little as possible. If possible, I'm just going to ignore the fact that I made a mistake. And at best, I'm going to mumble some kind of like half-hearted apology to try and just, move the train past this uncomfortable, inconvenient stop that we've just taken and get back online. But of course, any of us who have been in close relationships know that over time, those tiny paper cuts add up, and it's like erosion, right? It doesn't matter, right? The beach can lose a little bit of sand, but if it keeps on losing sand, right, or the land keeps eroding, eventually we have a lot less territory on which to actually build this relationship. The foundation gets undermined. And so restoring trust is actually a real art in expanding our footprint, right? The foundation, the stability. And actually, properly done, amends actually not only restore what was broken, but actually add to it. And that's the exciting thing. This isn't just getting back to zero level. It's actually adding, because the process of repair can be so tremendously trust producing beyond that which we actually had before whatever the rupture was. So that's why I'm so passionate about this, because I want to be in relationships with human beings, and I want those relationships to be better than they were yesterday, even though both me and whoever I'm in relationship with are going to sometimes make mistakes. So we want to normalize that and say, okay, well, how do we deal with that? So how does that all land on you, Anne?
Does that make love sense? that intro, and making amends is that restoring trust. And I think for each of us to first, even with ourselves, how can we restore trust with ourselves? And we could maybe riff on that depending how we've got time. When one of our biggest gainer winner, we have this lovely contest person who's sort of done the most and transformed their life by sort of getting into the right relationship with their money. She shared that she wrote a love letter to her money, thanking it for what it enables her to do and stuff. But she said she also wrote a letter of apology, making amends for where she just treated it frivolously or expected it to carry the baggage of her identity, of all the things that it was never meant to do, and to get achieved. And so, making amends in all areas. But this, I don't think there's a single one of us here who don't know what that feels like for ourselves, the terror of admitting a mistake and how to do that, and how so often inadvertently there's that, you mentioned that mumbled apology, often with a reason that
absolutely.
I'm sorry, but and the devastation of that is almost worse often than the mistake in the first place. So
absolutely.
And I'd encourage everyone, take notes, and we'll open up for questions. But I really want to dive on in, Ernest, with your beautiful way that you can take through almost the psychological, this process, essentially a recipe to how do we handle it.
Great. So the one thing I'll say is that it is a tremendous gift. Before I outline this kind of template for true amends, for repair, restoration of trust when a mistake has been made, that it's actually just as important as the person receiving the amends to stand for it. Because actually, while we're quick to want to apologize and move on, we're actually very uncomfortable often receiving an apology, receiving amends. We're actually very quick to say, oh, don't worry about it, or never mind, or it's okay, or I understand. But actually, the trust hasn't been restored. And it's a really missed opportunity. And our relationships actually deserve to pause and say, let's turn this difficult moment into something that actually takes us forward, which makes us stronger. So it's not just the person making the apology, it's the person receiving the amends, we have just as much responsibility to say, I can't let this go. I don't want to just brush this under the rug and miss this opportunity. Not because I'm trying to make you feel bad, because I want our relationship to be stronger. So whether it's giving or receiving amends, that's really important to create a narrative in which this is a very, very important part of our relationships. So having said that, let's jump into the process here. So we're going to have person A and person B. Person A is the person who's been hurt, been harmed, been upset, feels like their trust has been broken. And person B is the person who has, done whatever they've done, advertently, inadvertently, consciously, unconsciously, to have created that hurt in somebody else. And so the first thing to do when we're making amends is make sure that, Chris Voss in his great book, Never Split the Difference, calls this proof of life, right? Like you actually, in order to negotiate amends, it's a negotiation, you actually have to make sure that everybody wants to make that deal, right? Because otherwise you're going to spend a tremendous amount of time and energy and effort trying to do something that somebody isn't actually interested in doing right now. And that's a waste of time, and it actually makes things harder. So the first thing to do is say, hey, right? And it could be from either person A or person B. I think that there are some amends to make here. My trust has been broken, or I think I might have broken your trust. I'd like to make amends, or I'd like to receive some amends. Is that something we can do? And this goes back to the wheel of consent, right? We're creating consent. We're creating a buy-in. There's proof of life here, right? Everybody at the table actually wants this deal to work. And so when I'm doing this with a couple, let's say, I actually formalize this. I say, like, do you, person A, full-heartedly consent to be part of this amends process with the intention of actually not only forgiving and restoring trust between you and partner B, but making your relationship stronger? Is that what you want? Yes. Great. Partner B, are you willing to make amends? Are you willing to be part of this process, as uncomfortable as it is, in service of your relationship with person A, knowing that this process will make the two of you stronger and bring you closer? Yes. Great. That's so important that we come to this, because it's a tender thing. We come to it with full-heartedness. So that's almost like the pre-work. Before we even get to the meat of it, we have to all want to be there. So we're gonna in this scenario, we're gonna say, great, partner A and partner B are both wholehearted participants. Now, these steps might feel like almost overly detailed or overly slow, but it's actually in the details and in the slowness that we can have such a high degree of success. And believe me, right, taking 45 minutes to have an amends conversation rather than 5 minutes, if it's going to save you literally thousands of dollars and thousands of hours in therapy down the road, is well worth it. So first step, we've got buy-in. So this time, partner A and partner B have to agree on what they're making amends around, which means that they have to agree on the fact. What actually happened? And this is really important, because if we don't agree on the facts, again, we can spend all this time and energy and make amends for something that we're not even on the same page about. What actually happened? And the way to think about this is, if there was a video camera or a microphone, what would it have recorded? So if I say, I'm sorry I was a jerk, there's no way that a microphone records being a jerk, right? Because that's a subjective evaluation. What it would record is me saying, I said to you, well, as a matter of fact, you do look fat in that dress, right? That's what I said. That's the facts, right? So we're right, or I left the room and I slammed the door. Like, the video camera caught that. So we're not talking about our judgments or our interpretations. We're talking about what actually happened to create the harm. And this is a very important process. So it makes sure that partner A and partner B are actually, right, we agree. It's when I left the room and slammed the door. That's the thing that we're making amends for. Or it's when I said, as a matter of fact, you do look fat in that dress. That's what we're making amends for. Like, it's the actual thing that happened, not my subjective, you were a jerk, or I was lazy, right? Those judgments, those interpretations actually don't have enough reality to them. We need to actually focus in on the actual actions and words. Or, I didn't show up for our date till 30, and we had agreed that I would be there at 7. I didn't show up for this call until 10 past the hour when I agreed to be there on time. That's what happened. Okay, so we've done 2 pieces now. We've agreed to make amends, and now we've agreed on the facts. And most of us have never done an apology like this in our life already. We've already done 2 things that we've we probably have never done before, but we're setting ourselves up for success, and we're going to save a lot of time and money by doing it this way. So we agree on the facts. Usually, because it's the fact, right? If I say, well, I want you to make it for being a jerk, there might be a defensiveness there, right? There might be, right? We get into an argument about whether or not I was a jerk. But if I say, I think there was some amends because my feelings were hurt when you left the room and slammed the door. And I say, well, I didn't slam the door. Well, you left the room and shut the door loudly, right? Whatever it is, that's the thing we're making amends around. So we've clarified the facts. Now we're going to get into the real meat of it. Partner B, that's the person who's authored the harm, intentionally or unintentionally, gets to say to partner A, I want to understand what the impact of my actions were on you. Please tell me what the impact of what I did or did not do, how that lands on you. And this is an opportunity for partner A to really be seen and understood for what the actual impact is. This is very different than the intention, right? Intention and impact are two very different things. When I slammed the door loudly, what was the impact? When Anne didn't know if Ernest was going to be actually on this call at the top of the hour, what was the impact? Right? What did that feel like? What was that like for you? And I'm listening as partner B. I just want to get it. So the easiest way to do that is when my partner says something, I say it right back to them. I'm getting that you felt scared, right? When I slammed the door or shut it loudly, or, Anne might have been worried that, she was going to have to talk about amends today or figure out some other content, right? Got it. You were worried. You were scared. You felt sad, right? So we're just staying with the person. It doesn't matter whether we believe that we would interact the same way. It doesn't matter if any other person would respond that way. We're actually hearing the impact from the person who's been harmed. And what we're demonstrating to them is you matter, right? What your experience is matters to me. We're actually literally restoring trust right now by listening to how much, they matter or we matter to them because our actions have had an impact. Some people say that the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference, right? When we can actually impact somebody in a way, that means that we matter to them. And we're actually demonstrating that they matter to us because we want to know what it was like. And this is actually, this sometimes can be 80%, maybe even 85% of an amends process, is just really getting the impact without arguing about it and letting the other person feel us feeling them. Oh, I get it. Yeah, you felt really scared and scared, and you were thinking all these things, and you thought, I can never trust Ernest again, and right, I'm never going to be in a room with a door with this guy because he's just going to slam it. Is that what, right? You're just letting this person know that whatever the impact is, however they want to narrate it, you're with them. A lot of charge gets released this way. A lot of old hurt feelings, right? Because of course, when we're hurt in relationship, it's never the first time we were hurt. It's always, we're always getting hurt in a tender place that we've been hurt before. And so sometimes the feelings we have are really big, right? Really almost sometimes disproportional, sometimes to whatever the current event is. But this is an opportunity to actually heal those old wounds by sharing the impact and having it received. I understand. That makes sense. So what we're doing is we're acknowledging and accepting as partner B. That's how you felt. It's totally okay for you to feel that way or think those things. I get it. That's all we're doing. We're not arguing. We are not defending. We are just listening. And once partner A has finished, is there more? Anything else? There's going to be a massive shift of energy, right? So just from these first three steps, can we make amends? Yes. We're both here to make amends and make our relationship stronger. What actually happened? Okay, it was this thing. Got it. What was the impact of that thing on you, person A? Oh, this is what it was. Anything else? Okay, that too. Anything else? This one? Okay. Anything else? Oh no, that's it. I've got it. Okay, great. That is going to already create a, a different uh, playing field for the relationship going forward. We're not finished the process, but already this is way better than just saying, oh, I'm sorry about that. I didn't really mean to do that. What I meant to do was, and we explain ourselves. That's our kind of default way. Notice we haven't talked about that. We're just talking about impact, not the intention. So it's time now for partner B to talk. Now, partner B gets to figure out, now that I've heard the impact, let me now work through what need was I trying to meet when I did that thing that ended up hurting you. All human beings were motivated by something we think we need. We want to feel good. We want to feel helpful. We want to feel powerful. We want to feel safe. We want to feel in control. We want to feel successful. What need was I trying to meet when I left the room and slammed the door? If I imagine myself in that situation, I wanted to feel safe, right? I wanted to actually have distance and space and a door between me and this distressing conversation. I wanted to feel safe. Okay. So I wasn't feeling right. I wasn't feeling safe, and I had this need to feel unsafe. So the shadow is always the opposite of the thing that I'm trying to feel. If I want to feel safe, the shadow is, well, I must already feel unsafe. Right? If I want to feel in control, I must not feel in control. I feel out of control. If I want to feel powerful, it's because I feel powerless. If I want to feel desirable, it's because I don't feel attractive. Right? And so we use this very simple but very powerful psychological technique to discover what is it that I'm feeling inside of me that gives rise to this kind of behavior that ends up negatively impacting somebody I care about. Right? Is it when I'm feeling powerless because my need is to feel powerful, or I'm feeling unsafe because my need is to feel safe? So we're tracing it back to the shadow, the thing that I don't think I've got enough of, that I'm trying to get more of, that ends up in inadvertent harm happening. Very few people intend harm. That's the good news. So now I've really got something to work with, because I've traced my behavior back to, my need to what, let's think about why I put this in my calendar for UK time rather than South Africa time. What was my need? Well, my need was probably to get on with something, right? I wasn't paying enough attention. So my need was, to finish something, right? To get, to do the task and check it off and get on to something else. So what's the shadow of that need? The shadow is like, I don't think there's a, right? I'm overwhelmed probably. There's not enough time. I'm stressed out, right? I feel pressure. Okay, great. That's the motivation thing of this small, probably, breach of trust, but a breach of trust nonetheless, and it can get to be a big breach of trust. Why did I steal that money from you, or borrow it without telling you, intending to pay it back later? Well, because I feel like I don't have enough. I feel right. So I was trying to feel like I had more, and I actually feel like I don't have enough. Okay, there's the shadow. Once partner B gets in touch with the shadow that gave rise to this action or inaction that harmed their relationship, they have everything they need to not only restore trust with partner A, but actually become a more integrated human being themselves. Because this is not the first time that something inadvertently harmful has happened while we're trying to meet that shadowy need. And this is an opportunity for out loud for partner B to say, this isn't the first time. When I'm stressed, when I don't feel like there's enough time, this is how this impacts my life. This is how it's impacted other relationships in my life. This is actually, right? This is a liability. When I act from this place of not feeling safe, I slam doors or I raise my voice and I hurt people that I don't really want to hurt, but this isn't the first time. And so I get to actually reflect on what does this shadowy need that I'm trying to fulfill. And I'm not trying to meet it straight on. I'm not saying I'm feeling unsafe right now. Can you please help me? I'm actually slamming doors. What's the impact that that's had on me and my life and my relationships? And when we count the cost this way, there's something about stages of change, which is a therapeutic modality about how people change and recover from addictive behaviors and all sorts of different things, that the cost of continuing becomes so great that we can no longer tolerate not making a shift. This is kind of like the first step in the 12 steps, right? I think I've got a bit of an issue that I can't fully manage, right? This isn't just something I can ignore anymore. I've hit some kind of wall or some kind of bottom, and I'm really seeing that this is really costing me, and I don't want to pay that price anymore. So now partner B is doing this out loud, is revealing this to partner A. So there's vulnerability here. Guess what vulnerability does in a relationship? It creates trust. It actually allows somebody to feel closer and more trusting because I'm revealing something vulnerable. I'm not just now the person that slammed the door on my way out of the room. I'm a person who's saying, I really was feeling unsafe. In fact, I felt unsafe a lot in my life. And I can see that when I try to feel safe without admitting that I feel unsafe, I've done a lot of damage by accident. And I'm probably having some feelings about that as I'm sharing this. But partner A is actually feeling met now because they were vulnerably hurt. And now partner B gets to take one more step, which is to say, now that I see the root of this behavior and see the impact that it's had on you, this is what I'm going to do about it. This is how I want to make sure that this shadow doesn't get the better of me going forward. I want to take this as an opportunity to turn something around. And here's what I'm going to do. Here's how I'm going to get underneath this shadow. Maybe I'm going to work with a therapist, or maybe I'm going to take this to a men's group, or maybe I'm going to get some kind of support that's designed to help people who have shadows like this integrate them. It's always support. It's always support. Here's what I'm going to get more support, because if I had enough support, I wouldn't have obviously done what I did. Here's how I'm going to scaffold this. And I'm saying this out loud because I want to be accountable to the person that I've harmed. I'm not only doing this for me, because this will improve my life, but I actually want you to see that, I'm going to make a real effort here to get underneath the thing that caused me to do something that hurts you. Why is this so important? Because when we're making amends, we're not just saying, I'm sorry, it won't happen again. A, I haven't demonstrated why it happened. And B, I'm not doing anything actually to change it. If my willpower was enough, because I'm not a psychopath, I wouldn't have hurt you in the first place. Obviously, something happened that was greater than my willpower, or I never would have slammed the door on my way out of the room or showed up late for the call. I just wouldn't have done that. That wasn't a conscious decision, right? I'm not a psychopath, good news. But in order to actually say that won't happen again, I actually have to know why it happened and do something differently to get more support so that it won't happen again. And so we're actually breaking down what that would actually mean. And we're offering it out loud and with accountability to the person that we've harmed. So you're going to say, not only am I demonstrating that I understand where this came from inside of me, but also I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do about it. And if partner A doesn't actually feel like what I'm going to do about it will really move the needle, then amends are not going to get made. Right? So partner B is saying, here's what I propose to do about it. Does that seem like something that might work from your perspective? And if partner A is like, well, you've actually tried that 10 times before, so that one won't work. Like, okay, well, let me try something, right? I'm actually negotiating now. What can I offer? What can I do? What support can I get for myself so that you feel like there's a really good chance of me getting underneath this shadow that has ended up in harm? And now trust is positioned to be restored. Right? Trust hasn't fully been restored yet because that's going to take me doing what I said I was going to do and coming back and demonstrating that I am in fact getting underneath the shadow. That's the direction now that trust is going to be restored. But we've set the stage. We've lined up all the dominoes, and now I can just poke it, and all of them are going to go. Because if I do what I said I was going to do, and it is in fact effective, then I am actually demonstrating to you that you can trust me again. Because I'm taking so seriously why I did what I did and what I need to do in order to actually not have to resort to that kind of shadowy, unconscious, reactive behavior again. And then the last piece of the amends process is a gesture of repair, which is now that we've got this agreement in place whereby it really feels like we can move forward and really intentionally and on purpose rebuild this trust together. We have a plan in place. I also want to symbolically make a gesture of repair that says, I know that I showed up for you in a way that felt a little bit negatively impactful. I want to show up for you in a way that feels positively impactful because I want you to feel me and to have an experience of me as a benefit to you. So can I take you out for dinner? Can I massage your feet? May I, do the laundry for a week? Whatever it is, I want to make some gesture of repair. Now, of course, sometimes you can't really make a direct gesture of repair because it's somebody's hurt feelings, right? But sometimes, if I've stolen your money, it's like, not only will I repay you your money, right? But here's also the interest with it, right? Here's extra, right? Or I will repay the money and I will also wash your car, right? So sometimes, if I steal your car, for instance, and I say, well, I'm sorry about that, but I'm keeping the car, but I'll rub your feet. That's not going to work. I want the car back, right? And I want it probably in better condition than when it left, and I'll take a foot rub. Thank you very much. Right. So it has to be commensurate, if possible, to the harm or the injury that took place. But what we're doing in general is looking for some way to be of benefit so that that person can already start filing me in the category of, oh, Ernest is actually of benefit. He's not just a negative impact in my life, he's also a positive impact. And that's going to set the relationship back on track, coupled with the plan we have to fully restore trust. So take a deep breath. That's a lot. So let me just recap, right? We've wholeheartedly created the conditions under which this amends and repair process is going to happen. Check. We've agreed on the facts, what actually happened, what the video camera recorded or what the microphone picked up. Yep, we're on the same page. That's what happened. Third, I'm going to listen to the impact of whoever was harmed until there's nothing more to say. They really feel fully understood and gotten. Now, the person who's harmed and making the amends is going to discover what was the need that I was trying to get met and what was more powerful than my obvious willpower not to hurt anybody. I was trying to feel what? Safe, powerful, in control, successful, desirable, attractive. What was I doing? What was the shadow? Because the shadow of that is I don't feel that way. Where has this shown up in my life? What's the actual impact of me? If I don't change this, what am I going to keep doing? Can I get in touch with how much this has already cost me when this shadowy need is driving my behavior? What else has this already cost me in relationship? I'm revealing that. 6, now that I understand and I'm motivated, here's the kind of support I think I need so that I don't have to come from this place any longer. And now 7, here's a gesture of repair. Here's what I'd like to do so that you have a good experience of me, a positive experience of me, not just a negative one. I know that I impacted you negatively when I shut the door loudly or when I showed up late for the call. Here's how I want to be of benefit going forward, either in a literally restorative way, or sometimes it's just symbolic because you can't really restore emotional pain in the way you can give somebody their car back or repay them the money you took. So that's the plan.
It's just so beautifully put. And thank you, Ernest. I mean, these steps are so amazing. And I think, firstly, the power is just first knowing that there is a process and really understanding that the psychology of it. And not just psychology, just the humanity of it and humanness and this real base of that. So just right up front, that very first step, going, either, I believe, I feel repairs need to be made from myself or from the other. That first premise, because I'm taking a stand for the relationship. So I think for me, that's that first huge step. What are the ways that we can make ourselves available to make amends from both parties? Because I think so often can be such a trigger, we can use all these words, flooded, triggered, that it's also going slowly with this pace so that we don't fly off and then go into that emotional side and we'll fall apart. Because I think at each step, and my name is Anne right here, and I fuck this up quite often where I'll think I'm ready for amends, but then we'll go into either defensiveness or managing that language where we're not using that language perfectly, or the other one isn't. What are some of the ways we can self-manage or make sure that, or pre-work in a relationship to give this process a better chance of actually working and not just spiraling? Oh, we've lost Ed. I can't ask, unmute. There we
Sorry.
go.
There I am. Yeah, I mean, this is, and our relationships are the most important thing in our life, right? Like they're the most correlated, even more than actually financial abundance, right? The quality of our relationships is the single most important thing for our reported quality of life. And so they deserve our best. They deserve actually the most time, attention, energy, right? Consideration, education, right? Apprenticeship too, right? But literally most of us have spent more time learning how to, solve trigonometric equations than we have learning how to make amends. That's ridiculous, right? How many people solve trigonometric equations in their daily life? No. How many people would benefit from making amends? All of us. Yeah. So setting the stage for success, even if it feels a little bit slower, is so important. And that piece of consent, building on what we talked about last time, right? Just to make sure that we're all here. We all want the same thing. I want this relationship to get back on track. Do you? Great. So we're not here, right? This isn't a witch hunt. This isn't a trial by, which somebody's fitness for being in relationship is going to be on trial and has to be defended. We're actually saying, let's both work together to make this stronger. And so those early steps are so important. And if we can bring just a little bit of awareness to that, everything else gets much easier.
I just love that. Yeah, that first checking in with ourselves. Are we available? Can we consent fully? Can we be? And if we're not, to have the courage to go, well, I'm not ready. I'm still in my whatever storm and in the interest of the relationship, and that to be okay instead of the story of rushing in, or we have to always be available, because that's not necessarily going to actually serve. And I think an important thing, like so many of these tools, is practicing them before we need them. Having the conversation with loved ones, like, hey, are you open to exploring a model of amends that when we do fuck up, not if we do, how we might have a common language?
Absolutely, right? This is why we're having this little workshop today, like introducing this as a very helpful tool, right? Before we need it, right? It's time to figure out how to tie a rope isn't when you're falling off the mountain, You learn how to skydive before you jump out of the plane. It's just wise, because we're not all Tom Cruise and Mission Impossible figuring it out as we go. In fact, when it comes to relationships, I give myself about a 0% chance of doing it like that. But yeah, we're creating, just like we're creating strategies for wealth building. We're creating strategies for, how I'm going to save up for a new home, or how am I going to afford my child's university tuition, or whatever it might be. I'm going to make a plan. And our relationships deserve that same kind of consideration.
When we've maybe found a way, and please, if you guys got questions, just have a hand up, or if you've got a share, or there's an aha or an insight, just put your hand up. We can unmute you or type it in. And it's where people have got into now a relation where they've just in a place where a lot of sand has been eroded, where there's low trust, and it could be a work relation, an intimate relationship. What are some of the ways that a person, or where do they start, basically with themselves and other relationships, to start saying, hey, I want a different way? Or is there a point where you just go, okay, I need a blank slate? Because often people then just keep going to the next relationship, and then where I go, there I go.
Yeah, absolutely. It takes so much courage to say, I think I've been doing something, or we've been doing something that isn't working. But that doesn't mean that we aren't working. It means that the way we've been doing things isn't working. And so even after 5 years, 10 years, 50 years, to be able to say, hey, I'd like a new way forward with you. Right? If that's the thing that, and because that's what we're hearing, right? As people, am I being rejected and abandoned? But when I say, I want a new way forward with you, what we're doing is we're saying, if at all possible, I don't want this relationship to go away or be destroyed. I want it to evolve. I want us to find our way to a better place together. Are you with me? That's the most wholehearted invitation we can make. Now, that doesn't guarantee that somebody will say yes to us, but it gives it the most chance, because what we're saying is something that isn't saying, I want to abandon you, right? Or shape up or else. It doesn't have a threat. It doesn't have an ultimatum. It says, I want this relationship with you to be better. Can we do that? Can we work on that? I need your help to do that. And I'm willing to offer all that I can do too. Let's figure this out together. That's the most open-hearted that invitation can be. So will that guarantee success? No, but does it give us the most probability of success? Absolutely.
I love that. And that being really providing that safety up front in that context. So